Napoleon, Total War, Austria. Just want to talk briefly about the Kingdom of Italy. If you didn't know that if you have a province in Italy, like let's say Naples or, you know, the Papal States, and it happens to rebel on you, the rebels that are created are Italian rebels for the Kingdom of Italy. So keep that in mind as you're playing, because if they're a protectorate of yours and you lose that province to a rebellion, you won't be able to take it back because they'll become a protectorate also. You're going to see a bunch of small battles here in this particular episode, and I'm going to be showing you how I do particular things. In this battle, per se, you're going to see me fighting a Prussian army, because as the Austrians, I'm at war with the Prussians. Typically what I try and do is to eliminate the cavalry in the beginning for any army that I fight against, and then weaken the opponent's artillery so that my artillery can then perpetually fire at their infantry to weaken it before they either leave the board or they charge against me. This particular battle, there's basically level terrain. The Prussians do not have a lot of infantry. They do have a lot of artillery and a lot of cavalry. If this was me, the game would be going differently already, having 6 or 7 units of artillery. But, that's how the AI is playing the Prussians. And you can tell, my army, although it's not amazing, has, some relatively good artillery and some, respectable troops for accuracy in firing. Alright, what you're seeing now is that the Prussians are trying to flank me, but they can't do it. I'm basically just holding my line. And I have my artillery concentrated on one side of the field, which can be a catastrophic mistake if the opposing side decides to send a number of cavalry units to that side. They would roll up my artillery very quickly. What I'm trying to do there is to fire at the artillery so the cavalry charges forward, because that's something the AI does. You fire at artillery that has cavalry behind it, and the cavalry will charge forward. As you can tell, this isn't going to go well for his cavalry. He's charging into a line of infantry. I'm looking over to that end because that's his general trying to flank me for some reason. I have a unit of cavalry there. I'll send them after the general and have them kill him. You can tell from looking at the map in the upper right hand corner of the screen, he's basically only has one effective unit of infantry now, and he has a couple units of cav and the rest are artillery. Here comes another unit of cavalry forward again, throwing itself at the line, and they were beaten back also. Alright, looks like it's just artillery now. I don't want to send my cavalry forward at this point because he's got way too much artillery, and I don't need to take casualties I don't need to take. My artillery is better than his, so I can probably sit back and snipe him for a while. By snipe, I mean just fire at his artillery, and hopefully I can hit his guns. The one unit that's moving forward, that's just the crew left now. Something I wanted to mention in regards to artillery very quickly, and I found this out in one of the other battles that you're going to see here, is that if you're firing at something you can't see, what happens is your artillery gun sends a man from the unit forward to go and look at where you're shooting, or at least that's what I saw. I literally saw a man from my artillery unit leave the artillery crew, run across the field of battle, go up a hill, look at the enemy positions, and then go back to the artillery to basically tell them where to shoot. I had never seen that before, but It's obviously what the game does. Okay, now what's going on here is I'm going to take 2 units of cavalry, flank what's left of his artillery, because I feel fairly comfortable that I will not take a lot of casualties doing that at this point. You can tell we're still taking some fire from his artillery. His artillery is broken at this point. I'm allowing this particular battle to continue because I need to make sure that I don't come back and have to fight any of these units again. So you're going to see me have the cavalry close in on him and finish him off. And he has 1 unit left on the board, which I believe is just a unit of infantry. Or not infantry, artillery crew. And they're just standing there, but the challenge when it's such a small unit, finding them on the field can be challenging. There they are. Okay. Was not a close victory. Okay. Prussians were beaten back there. Now, because in my mind I play these games more realistically because I have a lot of friends that are in the military. If my ally turns on me, my ally is worse than the opponent that I'm actually fighting against. And what I mean by that is the French are my enemy in this game, but because the Prussians turned on me and they were my ally, I'm very, very upset with the Prussians. So I'm going to try and do what I can to devastate them. Here's a battle I have against the French. And the French are on the opposite side of a hill, or at least that's where they're going to deploy their army. Now, in this particular one, I want to make sure that you understand something. It is imperative when you set up your artillery that you look for angles. And by angles, I mean you look for places you can put your artillery to minimize any casualties you're going to take, but allow your artillery to inflict casualties upon them, the opponent. What you're going to see is me firing at this little gap here at the top of the hill where his infantry is at. Right now, one of my guns is out of range, so I'm going to have to move my artillery forward and close the distance because this particular army has 1 12-pounder and 1 6-pounder. It's not a lot of artillery, but it's what this particular army has. And I didn't need to move that much further forward in order to target that particular area. Now we can fire on it, and now we'll start damaging his troops that are up there. This is the typical way that I fight. It's typical way that I'm not going to say all battles are fought, but typically if you want to weaken your opponent before you attack or they attack, you bombard them with artillery first. It's a very good tactic. It limits the amount of casualties you take, which is very important when you have limited troops. And that's something I wanted to mention here at this point. As the Austrians, I still control all of the original Austrian territory. I haven't lost any. But I only have 3 armies to basically defend against the Prussians, the French, and it is very challenging. So what you're going to see throughout this is potentially me losing a province and then a few turns later going back and reclaiming it because the army I have has to march there to do it. You can see I'm slowly sniping away at his troops here on top of the hill. This takes time. So if you're going to use this tactic to weaken your opponent, be prepared to sit at the keyboard in front of the screen for 30 minutes to an hour for a battle. This also implies that when the battle starts, the AI decides to sit there and basically just fight. or not fight, I'm sorry, not fight is what I meant to say. And by not fight, I mean the AI is waiting for me to attack because the AI perceives itself to be in a better position. And it is in a very good solid position. It's on the low slope of a hill. And if I were to go forward with my infantry and cavalry, they would have a reasonable chance of beating me because the French infantry is very, very good. You can tell at this point, there's 3 units I can potentially shoot at up here. I have a lot of units I need to shoot through. I need to mention that if you appreciate or like the way that I'm teaching you how to fight, click subscribe to the channel for more hints as you watch more episodes that I post online. What you're going to see is me playing Napoleon Total War, other Total War games, and other games, all of which I'll try to explain to you the tactics that I use as I'm playing. If you're wondering why the screen moves around a little bit, I don't have a bad mouse, okay? But I do have bad eyes. So occasionally I will lose sight of the mouse and I'll have to move it off to a corner of the screen to find it and things like that. But that's my problem. That doesn't mean I'm bad from a tactical or strategic sense. But you will see me potentially do some or let some stupid things happen because I can't find the mouse in time, and maybe I have a battle difficulty or the speed set to high. This is something that made no sense here. Why would you take your cavalry and put them in front? It doesn't make sense. No commander would do that. And we continue to fire. His cavalry's gone now, and he's shuffled another unit down the line into that little gap that I'm firing at. If the French would not have done this in terms of setup by leaving me something to fire at, if you look at the terrain map in the top right-hand corner of the screen, I think I would have been forced to take my entire army, shift them to the bottom of the screen, and move them into a horizontal position and move up to flank his army to force them to reposition. That would be the only thing I could have conceived of, because then in theory the French would have redeployed horizontally to face me. But they deployed this way. So as you can see, it just takes time, like I said, to employ this tactic with artillery, and it's going to take some time. Now he does have some artillery on the flank there, on his right flank, that I'm going to have to get rid of at some point. And the other thing you can tell, my advantage here is that all of his artillery is on the low slope of the hill, which means they cannot see anything of me directly. If he would have put artillery where he has his infantry here, I would have had a problem. If he would have put 2 units of artillery there, I would be the one taking the damage. Now, in fact, at this point, my artillery could have been destroyed. But that's not how the game deploys. Typically, a commander like Napoleon would, in the context of his campaigns, he would have redeployed and moved the artillery and used it in such a way that it made the most sense as the battle progressed. You don't just put it out on the flank and let it sit there and be of no use. All right, what do we have here now? 2 French units, both relatively weak, just getting hammered. Now you can tell from looking at my artillery that they're fairly well leveled up for a 12-pounder and a 6-pounder. So they're fairly accurate. I wouldn't recommend potentially sniping at something with only 2 units unless they're leveled up. If you're going to snipe at it with 3 units, 4 units of artillery. Because as you level up, you will damage and eliminate the units you're facing faster, and it will shorten the overall battle length. If I remember correctly, this particular battle here with the French is the longest battle in the episode. And you can tell it's just a lot of patience required to diminish the strength of your opponent. And as you fire your artillery, it is important that you go to where your artillery actually is, go to ground level, so you can see what your artillery can see. Because a line of sight for artillery is unbelievably important. It's much easier for the artillery to shoot at something they can actually see. So if you employ that little bit of common sense and you use that logic as you play the game, your artillery will be a more effective tool. As you can tell, the French line is getting a little bit shorter. Probably got 9 units of infantry still in it. And because I'm playing this on basically a fast speed, what you're not seeing is me playing with my mouse on the top of the hill, moving the location of where I want to shoot around, trying to... typically I don't target the actual unit I'm firing at with artillery unless it's rockets. If it's a cannon like a 9-pounder, 6-pounder, 12-pounder, or whatever it may be, I will try to fire in front of the unit. Because typically what happens is the cannonball will bounce into the unit and hit them, either knocking them down or killing and eliminating some of the figures within the unit itself. You can see there's a cavalry unit there behind that artillery. I'm just pretending to fire at them. Now I'm trying to, like I said, with mouse control, find that cavalry unit. He's over there on my flank, and he got up to me. That's bad. See how bad this can be? Finally got my cav up there. Okay. But now if I remember correctly, yep, I lost a unit of artillery. My 6-pounders took a lot of damage there. So I'm down to 1 gun now for this battle. So I guess what I'm telling you is if you are visually impaired, games are fun, but maybe you don't want to play on the fastest speed of the game. And I would also suggest that you avoid first-person shooter games where other people are just running around the board shooting. Unless you happen to be an amazing sniper that likes to camp in a particular spot and just shoot people. So what I'm doing here is I'm taking my cav around to his side. And the thing about artillery and cav is if the cavalry charges, and it's in the original view of artillery, the artillery will fire on you. If your cav walks, and it's, like my cav is doing right now, his artillery won't shoot at me because I guess I'm not kicking up dust. I guess that's the way the game designers did this part. Okay, at this point I have successfully flanked that piece of artillery. Now I'm coming in behind them or on their flank per se, because I want to eliminate this unit on the side here. Okay. And the other thing I'll let you know is if you're employing a tactic like I just did, what you want to do with that tactic is to walk up behind your target, click charge first, and then click melee for the unit you're going to attack. Now his line is a little bit shorter now. Looks like he's down to 6 units of infantry. He still has 1 unit of artillery on the other end of the line. And that unit of artillery has a unit of cav in it. I don't want to play with his cavalry, so I'm going to take my cav, the 2 units you see moving, and I'm also going to take my unit of artillery and move it to the right end of my line. What I want to do when I get the artillery there is to pretend fire on his unit of artillery, even though I won't be able to see it, to force his cavalry behind them to charge me so I can destroy them. So that's the next thing you're going to see happen. Also, something for you to know in the context of the game and playing battles. Typically, an opposing army, if it has infantry, cavalry, and artillery, will sometimes attack you and sometimes sit there like this army is doing. An army that sits there and accepts fire from the opponent will, how should we say, it will continue to sit there until you eliminate all of its cavalry and artillery, at which point the opposing army will either assault and attack or they will withdraw from the field. So if you want to use the artillery tactic I have shown you how to use here, do not kill all of the opponent's opposing artillery, because then they will just sit there and continue to fight. Alright, this is me just finishing off his cav here with overwhelming numbers. Now the next thing I want to do is I want to take my cav and go up as close as I can to the crest of that hill where his artillery is, because I don't want to send my infantry into the woods to fight. It's just not a good thing to do. So if I can get them as close to the crest of the hill as possible, I can then charge over the hill and down into his artillery, and hopefully, if I time it right, between him firing his cannons. So you're going to see me get to as close to the top as I can, and then we will do a charge. And we did well. Now you're seeing his infantry is starting to move now. Here they come. They're assaulting my line. And they were going to assault my line, but I'm basically changing my frontage right now. I'm going to get my cannon behind the line, and we'll see what they do. Repositioning my line, basically moving closer to them. And we will we'll see what the French do. They basically pulled out of the woods. There's some firing on the far left side of my line and their line. I have some light infantry who have the extended range who are going to shoot at this end unit and chew them up as best as possible. And the French are now withdrawing from the board. The commander that's still on the board, that's actually, if I remember correctly, I believe that's Napoleon. Nope, it's just General Staff. Okay. So the French general and his troops have left the board. It's a victory for the Austrians. Minimal casualties. Wish I would have paid more attention with the unit of artillery. Okay. Now, what I want to do with that particular army is capture this particular province, in Piedmont. And because the French have also angered me, I have a policy that I use in the game of what I call loot and burn it to the ground, which means that I will loot the province, burn everything within it to the ground, hoping that it will rebel. Because if it rebels, then my opponent has to then spend valuable troops to recapture it. I don't want to stay there, though, because that's not in my best interest. I'm just here to hurt the French resources. Here's the Spanish attacking my province in the Papal States, and they are going to take this without question. I don't have enough troops there, and in fact, I don't even have any armies in the peninsula of Italy to stop them at this point. The Italians, however, control the province above them and below them, so the Spanish will be stuck there. Okay, here's me attacking Prussians now. It's just 2 units of cavalry, and if I would have done this on auto-resolve, the game would have given me casualties, which I know that if you fight the battle, you would not take any casualties. Here I am just shooting at them with my artillery. I'm going to charge forward, try and get close, and they're just not going to make it. And we took no casualties. There's another Prussian army there, though. Here what I'm going to do is I'm going to basically do I don't know what you want to call it, a switch. And, well, it's not time for the switch yet. We have another fight here. Austrians against the Prussians. The field of battle. I'm going to pull back so that I have more time for my artillery to do damage against the Prussians. I think what the game does when it goes through and it determines who has the advantage is if the distance between the armies is closer, the attacker has the advantage. I don't know. But sometimes you notice there's a big gap between the armies and sometimes there isn't. I think that just tells me that some of the armies think they can win and some of them can't. Now here's another battle going on. This time I have 4 12-pounders. So I have a lot of artillery at this time. But he has a lot of troops. Is he actually moving forward? Here's his cav. They're going to try and charge the center. Go to canister and just finish them off. What a waste of cavalry. Looks like they're still coming forward very slowly. And the angle he's coming forward on is going to basically go front against my armies. So what I mean by that is he's going to be attacking me in such a way that he's not going to be flanking me with anybody. Having all of those 12-pounders in the middle when they go to canister is going to be devastating against his units. Okay, it's about time for that. There goes the canister. Switch to the other side there where those units are closer. And I also intermingle my infantry with my artillery to basically provide additional fire if they happen to be charged by somebody. See, that was trouble right there. He charged me and he got some of my artillery to withdraw from the field. And typically when that happens is I allow the units to retreat that were charged, especially if they were charged by cav, like you can see down to 7, down to 8, keeping them on the board and having them continue to fight and potentially being wiped out is a higher risk because they have so few troops left in their units. This is just me wiping out some of the Prussians at this point that happen to be in my way. Okay, I'm just mopping up the units that are in front of us. Okay, go back on station behind the line. There's no reason to be in front of it. Continue to fire on that unit of line troops that the Prussians sent forward. Doing our best to weaken them. Okay, both of those Prussian units were pushed back. He's trying to flank me on the... Nope. He was going to send that unit of cavalry forward on his left, but they pulled back. Okay. Force that cavalry unit to do something. Here they come forward. Yeah, but they can't get through on that end of the line. Wiped out to the last man. Okay. Now his troops are going to do what? His general's still there. So right now my artillery is still firing on him. Don't have great line of sight against him at this point, so I'm going to probably have to flank him with my cav. And they will right around him. They'll get behind him and they'll come up from behind him, kill his general first, and then take his artillery out. Here we go, moving in behind them. Now at this point we're just going to walk the cavalry forward. Not going to charge them forward because otherwise if I charge them forward, the Prussians will turn and react, and I will, with the amount of artillery he has there, I might lose all my cav. Okay. So there they are. Just walking up on them very slowly. His general hasn't noticed me yet. Alright. Got the general. Got the next unit. Got the next unit. Got them all. Okay. Casualties were, acceptable but high. Here's the Spanish taking the Papal States from me. Can't do anything about that though. Now here we need to heal somewhere. Alright. send the other army to that position, which is a healed army, hasn't had casualties in a while. Now this is a small battle that occurred. I had one unit of infantry, and the Prussians attacked Bavaria. My one unit will come in on the flank of the Prussians. The one unit I have isn't even real infantry. It's basically, conscript type troops. But, I knew that if I would have just auto-resolved this, the game would have basically said, oh, Bavaria loses. But I knew from looking at it, because they had a lot of cav, that there was a reasonable chance that they could do a number on the Prussians and potentially beat them. So you see my unit coming closer. I'm going to fire on them as best as I can. Luckily for me, they're not firing on me. When I say they, I mean the Prussians, because they would maul me if they fired on me. And what I'm typically doing here in this fight is any Prussian unit that is weakened, I fire on them to help them leave the board and run away. And here comes the rest of the Bavarian infantry. And at this point, you can tell the Prussians are going to lose. Okay. Here's a different battle. This is me going after Berlin. And what you're going to see here is me burn it to the ground. That was done on auto-resolve. There was no reason for it not to be done on auto-resolve. Here's the French retaking or taking Sicily from me. I can't do anything about that either. I have no troops down there to stop them. And that's where Napoleon is. A lot of back and forth, different provinces, because the French and the Spanish are doing what they're doing. They both made my list. What that means is I'm going to do my best to work my way through France and Spain and burn and take what I can take with one army. Here they don't have a very good army. I don't believe they even have any artillery in this army. I'm just repositioning my troops a little bit before I start, like I always do. And typically what I do is, cavalry to the flanks, but I always put my artillery in the center. And here they come forward now. I'm just firing at armed citizens on that side of the line. So once the French close the gap here in terms of distance, this battle will be over, because they don't have good troops in this army. They also don't have any artillery. What a waste of troops. I'm going to have to take my cav and kill his general on that side. I can't have any type of cav behind my units. Once his general is dead, his morale is going to be shot. You can tell his units are starting to break. Doing everything I can from a firing standpoint to hold the line, and I'm holding the line very well. They're going to try and charge me here. I got my unit forward and basically headed off that charge against the artillery. Pull them back a bit in a minute because they're a little bit too far forward. All right, what do we have left? His line, his center has been broken. He only has a right and a left. Slowly shooting them apart with the artillery with the canister shot. Now, because they're French, some of his units may rally and come back. We'll see. But typically that can happen. There, you see what I mean? Game puts a lot of cloud into this. You know, just being French. They're just there as a group now, all getting together for a party of some sort. Now they're all going somewhere. Where did they go? Where did all those guys go? Here comes his cav on my right. They just charged me for no reason to get shot up. I don't know why they did that. Made no sense. He has the cannon left. Or not the cannon. Oh, there's all of his infantry hiding there. Okay. I want to end this quickly, so what do? We have to find a way. Oh, and typically I don't keep my general in the front line, very close to the front line, because cannonballs and musket shot go through lines. Okay, it's not like you fire and every round hits somebody. Sometimes the bullets that you fire go through the line and they hit things behind them. Same thing with cannonballs. Okay, got one guy left now. And that is a piece of artillery. Couldn't tell it was in the woods. Okay. Finish that off with some cav. And one other thing, even though I'm mad that I'm at war with the Prussians, I'm happy that I was able to get to Berlin and take it, loot it, and burn it to the ground. All of the money I got from that, I put into building up the Austrian ability to make money. And by that I mean I put it into some resource development, a lot of, magistrate type buildings, like, those kind of, like the gray buildings on the board, museums, things like that, things that are going to boost my overall income once those things are completed. Here's another battle against the French. Just me trying to finish some of the French off that are still there. I don't want to auto-resolve these, because the French will get credit for doing a lot more damage to me than they would actually be able to do. And what do I see? Can't tell if they're all citizens or not. They might be. I'm going to wait there for them to come forward. Can't tell if those armed citizenry, yes. So they're going to have very bad morale and poor accuracy when shooting. That's how the citizen troops are. Look at them. They just got mauled. Now I'll fire at the next one. Anybody else? They don't want to attack the center because that's where the artillery is. And that canister shot is just terrible. Okay. And that's pretty much a victory. Minimal casualties. And once again, because they're French, they sometimes rally on their own. And a victory. Okay. Okay, now that particular French province we're going to burn to the ground, and we're going to use that money to build up our income stream. We're going to burn every resource they have to the ground also. Then I'm going to go on to the next French province in southern France and do the same thing. Take the income, put it into my ability to generate income, burn down their resources, burn down their buildings, and keep my fingers crossed that some of these provinces I do this to rebel. Because a rebelling army is still an army that creates with 3 chevrons across the board, especially in France. Okay. Auto-resolve that. Loot that one. Got to the third one in southern France. Loot that one, same thing. The last building I looted there was the supply, or burned to the ground was the supply depot. I was keeping that around as long as possible so that I could use that to heal my army. Okay. Yeah, those little defeats mean nothing to me. Auto-resolve that. This one will peacefully occupy. I'm going to use this province as a place to create troops for the Austrians eventually. Uh-oh. Okay, so I got a rebellion behind me, but I have a French army or a Spanish army in front of me that I'm going to have to fight now. And I am so much better across the board than they are. It was a victory. Finish them off. Can't have them here. Okay. It was surprising that the Spanish went down so easily, but I'm happy. That basically tells me there's a chance I can march on Madrid. This is me basically moving to some of the provinces to the west of Berlin that were allied with the French and providing them income. Just trying to work my way through them slowly. And look how good that little force is there. Wow. Luckily, my army was better. Helps to have artillery. Okay. Okay. Take that, peacefully occupy that one. The reason I want to peacefully occupy it is I can then move my way down the coast and hopefully take out the United Netherlands, I believe. That's who it is. That was me fighting another Spanish army. Here are the Prussians coming to Hanover now. They had an army in one of those other provinces there. I'm not going to be able to stop that. They're going to take that. Well, that's going to cost the Prussians. I think I'll go and sack Berlin again here. Because this is me doing a voiceover of highlights, one of the things I'll tell you is the second sacking I do of Berlin. You know how you can check the public order for a province? The second time I sack it, the public order is going to be minus 35. This is me switching out armies, sending a fresh army forward. Okay. Now I'm just going to retreat into my province and heal again. I didn't even see the English show up here, and then a turn later after they showed up, they were just gone. I'm besieged now. I can't stay besieged because I only have 3 armies, so I have to fight even if I don't want to fight. He does not have good troops, though. Me taking a run at Madrid. Wasn't expecting him to have an army on the road. My troops are so much better than his right now. Okay, go back and heal. Okay, this is my second run against Berlin. This army is not as good. It hasn't done as much fighting. But that still doesn't mean we're not going to do it. Yeah, they have no chevrons to speak of with their forces. Alright, give me Berlin. Let's extend, send a cavalry unit forward to force the conflict. Okay. Loot it again. And the other thing I'm going to tell you is, in going through this and playing this as many times as I have, a tactic you can use against an opponent, major city like Paris, like London, like Berlin, like Vienna, whatever it may be, is take it, okay, loot it, okay, but then take your army out of the province. The rebellion that occurs will be so small that it will be something that potentially one army can put down. In a future episode of this, me playing as Austria, you will see me try that against Berlin. Okay. Fended them off there. In Oldenburg. I have to slightly change what I'm doing. I can't hold two provinces in Northern Europe while I'm constantly being attacked by the Prussians and the other ones. I got sick and tired of the Saxons just sitting around, so I've decided to attack them. The Saxons happen to be in a star fort. So what you're going to see here is me using artillery to effectively eliminate the defenses of a star fort, kill as many troops as I can, using my artillery to force some of them to come forward, okay? And then going into the fort to take it and eliminate the remaining Saxon forces. My goal here isn't to occupy Saxony. My goal here is to take Saxony and have Saxony become a protectorate of mine, so I can use Saxony as a base to go and attack surrounding provinces. The Saxon army is also large enough that if I give them the opportunity to expand, they can become a very useful ally. So just me firing away, chipping away at what's there. It's the first star fort I've fought against in a while, so I'm going to have to probe around and look for weaknesses in the walls. So you're going to see basically all of that 12-pound artillery just devastate the walls that are there and quickly reduce them to rubble. You see how effective 12-pound artillery is. Only thing that can do as much damage in my mind as the 12-pounders is rockets. It's just as devastating for rockets to fire at them. Okay. Continue firing over there. May not have a great angle there. Still okay. Continuing to fire at the Saxons there. damaging their troops as I fire at them. Okay. Now at the start of this battle, he had a lot of cavalry. And in order for me to get those cavalry units to charge, I'm going to have to move my artillery forward some. Well, I guess I didn't. Okay. So here comes the first unit. Wiped out. Now, if the game plays the way it normally does, it'll put another cav unit there to basically support that unit of artillery. And we'll just do the same thing. We'll pretend we can actually hit. And we'll fire at the cav again. The cav will fire, come charging forward. Once again, destroy before they could even make contact. Same thing. Repeat the process. What's happening here is the cav is coming from the center of the fort. And as I'm doing this, the units in the center of the fort are becoming fewer and fewer. But you can tell from looking at these 12-pounders that they are fairly accurate too. Moving the troops forward a bit at this point. He doesn't have any artillery on the walls to contest anything I'm doing. Okay, here comes the next unit of cav. Got them too. Next unit. Yeah, if all of that Saxon cav would have charged my center at the start of the battle where I had my artillery, they could have probably made my artillery leave the field and inflicted serious casualties on the infantry in my center and forced me to ground assault the fort with the fort being fully intact. Comes another unit of cav to be shot down by the artillery. Okay. Probably down to the last 2 units of cav at this point. But you can tell, the effective use of artillery in this game is to use it to your best advantage to weaken your opponent as much as possible and force them to do things that are in your benefit. Okay, that should be all of his cav. Oh, it says there's a star in the middle still. Oh, that's his general staff. Okay. Now we're going to probably have to close the distance again. I don't know who I can actually fire at. I'm trying. One thing you can't see is I'm trying to fire at the units on top of the wall, and it's not doing any damage at all with the artillery. The only thing I could do damage to infantry in a star fort, I'm going to guess, is rockets, because they can fire up and then they would, the rockets would land on top of the wall. But because the fort cannot be 100% destroyed, it's very challenging to attack. This is just me trying to figure out what I can attack. He's got a lot of troops, 4 units at least behind that point on the star. So what do? I think we're going to have to close the distance. I think it's the only thing we can do. Here I'm repositioning the artillery so that they can start to fire at, hopefully, something in the star fort or flank those units behind it. Something. Because there's no way I'm going to attack against all of that and take casualties I don't need to take. So I'm trying to limit my casualties as much as I can. Bringing my infantry forward now to support the artillery. If he would have still had cav, I probably would not have moved my artillery forward like I did. Alright, can we hit anything with the artillery now? I don't think we can. Nope. Maybe there. Maybe that one unit. Maybe we don't have the angle. Up, we nipped somebody, or we knocked somebody down. Got to do more than that, though. Yep, the artillery, we're going to move them forward some more. We still don't have a good angle. Infantry are moving forward, because I know I'm going to have to do an infantry assault at some point also. Cav moved forward on the flanks also to support everybody. I'm trying to get the artillery to a point where it can provide flank fire against all those Saxon units hiding behind that part of the fort. That is probably a good enough angle there to fire on at least one of them. Unnumber the units again. Let's see if we can fire on anybody. Saxon cowards. They took away my shot. Huh. That means I'm going to have to ground assault. All right. Trying to fire and I'm not having any effect with the artillery. Eliminating a little bit more of the fort here. Okay. Another section we can fire on to inflict damage. Getting some artillery hits over there. Not a lot. There they go. Retreated back inside the fort. Alright. That means it's time for the ground assault. As you can tell, I haven't taken a lot of casualties up to this point. Couple casualties in the artillery, a few casualties in the infantry, but if I would have just ground assaulted the fort in the beginning, my army would have been thoroughly mauled. Thoroughly. You see, I just can't... I can't hit anything with the artillery. Starfort does provide protection. Okay, here's the infantry moving forward for the ground assault now. Initially getting through the gap in the fort is going to be the challenge. Once I'm inside, my numbers will carry the field. Standing there shooting isn't going to do enough damage either. The cover they have is really, really good cover. So in we go. And more comes in. It's 5 units coming in from that side against his 2. Here comes his general. There's my general over there. Everybody's going into the fort there. And they're starting to file in. Okay. Okay, I don't see anybody there left for the Saxons. So at this point my army is just going to the center to basically take the fort. Just want to say that, you know, like if you're learning anything from me, I would appreciate it if you would, you know, put something in a comment, let me know what you think. And if you feel like it, you know, click like, click subscribe. We're going to liberate Saxony. They gave us some troops with a general. That was nice. Have a nice day.